Chosen one, do you feel that? That electric chill crawling up your spine right now? That sudden weight pressing against your chest, like invisible hands trying to reach something sacred inside you? Listen to me carefully. This Tuesday is not just another day on your calendar, it's a spiritual battleground. And if you're not prepared, if you let the wrong person lay even a finger on your energy, your peace, your divine assignment, you could lose what took 70, 80, maybe 90 years to build. Here's what they don't want you to know. Every Tuesday carries a frequency. But this Tuesday, heaven has been marking it in red ink since before you took your first breath. The enemy knows it too. That's why he's been positioning people around you, people you trust, people you love, even people you've helped to drain you dry on this exact day. You didn't stumble across this message by accident. Algorithms don't control divine appointments. You were summoned here because your name was whispered in the throne room of heaven 3 nights ago. The Almighty looked down at your life and said, "This one needs to understand what's coming." Can you feel it stirring already? That knowing in your bones that this isn't just another spiritual video, that restless energy that's been building for days, like a storm gathering strength. That's not anxiety, beloved. That's recognition. Your spirit recognizing its own voice calling from eternity. Before we go deeper into this sacred warning, and it is a warning, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit move your heart. But right now, if you feel something already stirring in your chest, if your spirit is trembling with recognition, type 777 inches, the comments. Don't hesitate. Don't overthink it. That number isn't just digits on a screen. It's your covenant with heaven. It's your declaration that you're ready to protect what God has been building in secret. Because here's the truth that's going to shatter everything you thought you knew about this Tuesday. Someone close to you has been assigned to test your boundaries. Someone you never suspected is about to reach for something that doesn't belong to them. And if you're not spiritually armored, if you don't understand the weight of this day, you could hand over your breakthrough, your peace, your very destiny without even realizing it. The clock is ticking, chosen one. Tuesday is almost here. And what happens in the next few minutes, whether you listen, whether you prepare, whether you guard your spirit like the treasure it is, will determine whether you emerge victorious or spend the next season wondering what went wrong. Stay with me. Your spiritual survival depends on it. Why do you think you've been waking up at 3 a.m. for the past week? Why does your chest feel heavy every time you think about Tuesday? Why are the people closest to you suddenly acting different? Because something is stirring in the spiritual realm, chosen one. Something ancient. Something that happens only when heaven itself marks a day as sacred and dangerous. You see, most people live their entire lives never understanding that certain days carry weight. They think Tuesday is just another square on the calendar, another 24 hours between Monday and Wednesday. But you're not most people, are you? You've always felt things deeper, sensed things others missed. That's because you carry something they don't. Spiritual sensitivity that recognizes when the veil grows thin. Tuesday isn't random. It's appointed. In the ancient Hebrew calendar, Tuesday was the day God said it is good twice. Genesis 1:10 and Genesis 1:12. The only day in creation blessed with double approval. But here's what the scholars won't tell you: what carries double blessing also carries double testing. What heaven marks as sacred, hell marks as target. Think of your life as a sacred garden. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been planting seeds. Seeds of faith when doubt tried to choke you. Seeds of endurance when your body wanted to quit. Seeds of prayer when heaven felt silent as stone. You've watered that garden with tears, fertilized it with sacrifice, protected it through seasons that should have killed everything growing inside your heart. But on this Tuesday, beloved, the gates of that garden face their ultimate test. You feel it already, don't you? That restless energy building like storm pressure. That's not your imagination. That's spiritual reality pressing against the natural world. The enemy has been circling your garden for months, studying your patterns, learning your weaknesses, positioning his agents, and some of them are people you love. Here's the shocking truth that's going to cut you to the bone. Someone in your inner circle has been assigned to steal from your garden on Tuesday. Not your money, not your possessions, something far more valuable, your peace, your hope, your divine assignment that's been growing in secret for decades. The Bible warns us in John 10:10 that the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. But it doesn't say the thief always looks like an enemy. Sometimes the thief wears the face of family. Sometimes they speak with the voice of friendship. Sometimes they approach with concern, with advice, with what seems like love. In a moment, I'll reveal exactly what happens if you fail this test, the devastating price you'll pay for letting the wrong hands touch what God has been growing in your spirit. But first, you need to understand why this test exists at all. Because God is preparing you for something massive, something so significant that every force of darkness has been mobilized to stop it. You think those financial struggles that hit just when breakthrough seemed close were coincidence. You think that family drama that erupted right before your promotion was random. You think that health scare that appeared the moment you started feeling hopeful was bad luck. No, chosen one, you've been under strategic attack because heaven has been preparing you for strategic promotion. But here's where it gets dangerous. The closer you get to your breakthrough, the more desperate the attacks become. And Tuesday is when they make their final move. Listen to me carefully. Proverbs 4:23 commands us to guard your heart above all else, for everything you do flows from it. Above all else. Not guard it sometimes, not guard it from obvious threats. Guard it above everything else in your life. Why? Because your heart is the wellspring of your destiny. When someone lays a finger on your spirit through manipulation, through guilt, through demands that violate your boundaries, they're not just touching you. They're reaching into that sacred garden and ripping up seeds that took years to plant. They're poisoning the soil where your breakthrough was about to bloom. And here's the part that will make your blood run cold. They often don't even know they're doing it. The enemy uses willing vessels and unwilling ones. Your daughter who calls Tuesday morning with another crisis that somehow always requires you to sacrifice your peace. Your neighbor who drops by with concern that leaves you feeling drained and doubtful. Your church friend who offers advice that sounds spiritual but leaves you questioning everything God has been whispering to your heart. They think they're helping, but they're harvesting what they never planted. The test of Tuesday is this. Will you finally draw the line? Will you finally say, no more? My garden is off limits. My peace is not your dumping ground. My hope is not your doubt repository. Because here's what happens if you don't, and this is going to shock you to your very core. Every time you let someone touch what's sacred in your spirit, you don't just lose that moment. You lose momentum. You lose the compound effect of decades of faithfulness. You lose the very thing God has been building through every trial, every tear, every triumph. Ecclesiastes 3:1 tells us there's a time for everything. A time to plant and a time to protect what's been planted. A time to give and a time to guard what you've been given. A time to open your heart and a time to close the gates. Tuesday is your time to close the gates. But the question burning in your chest right now is this. How do you know who's coming to steal and who's coming to strengthen? How do you recognize the difference between genuine need and spiritual vampirism? That's exactly what we need to uncover next, because the signs are already appearing and time is running out. Let me tell you about Margaret, 73 years old, sitting in her kitchen at 2 a.m., staring at her phone after another conversation with her daughter. Mom, You're being dramatic again. Why can't you just be happy for once? Those words echoing in her mind like a poison that seeps deeper with each replay. Margaret doesn't know it yet, but invisible hands have been reaching into her spirit for months. Fingers she trusted, fingers she loved, fingers she never saw coming. You know Margaret, don't you? Maybe you are Margaret. Here's what heaven is trying to show you right now. There are people in your life, people you've fed, people you've prayed for, people you've sacrificed everything to love, who have been systematically draining the very essence of who you are. And they're so skilled at it, so subtle in their approach, that you've been blaming yourself for feeling empty. The friend who calls every Tuesday with a crisis that somehow always becomes about how you're not doing enough. The adult child who visits just long enough to remind you of every mistake you made as a parent. The neighbor who borrows your strength but never your joy. These aren't accidents, beloved. These are assignments. Scripture warns us in Matthew 10:36, "A man's enemies will be the members of his household." Jesus knew. He understood that the deepest wounds often come from the closest hands. But here's what breaks my heart about your generation. You were raised to endure, to smile through pain, to give until it hurts, then give some more. You were taught that saying no was selfish, that protecting yourself was somehow un-Christian. So you've spent decades letting invisible hands reach into your chest and rearrange your peace. Listen to me carefully. That ache you feel after certain conversations, that's not getting older. That's spiritual theft. That exhaustion that comes after helping certain people, that's not arthritis. That's energy vampirism. Those sleepless nights when someone's words replay in your mind like a broken record, that's not insomnia. That's your spirit trying to heal from wounds you didn't even know you received. Think about the last time someone made you question your own memory. "I never said that, Mom." You're imagining things again. Are you sure that's how it happened? These are fingerprints, beloved. Fingerprints of manipulation glowing under heaven's black light. And on Tuesday, those fingerprints will be impossible to ignore. Dr. Sarah comes to mind. 81 years old, sitting in that sterile doctor's office as he casually mentions, "At your age, we need to start preparing for the inevitable." Invisible hands right there, reaching into her hope, planting seeds of fear where faith should bloom. She walked out of that office carrying death in her thoughts instead of life in her spirit. Or Robert, whose pastor, his own pastor, looked him in the eye and said, "Sometimes God calls us home when our work is finished here." Robert is 75 and had just recovered from pneumonia. Those hands, they planted the lie that his purpose was complete, that his remaining years were just borrowed time. These are the invisible hands I'm talking about. The ones that touch your dreams and whisper too late. The ones that touch your hopes and whisper impossible. The ones that touch your calling and whisper foolish. But here's the truth that's going to shatter their power over you. Tuesday is coming, and on Tuesday, heaven is turning on the lights. Every fingerprint, every manipulation, every subtle drain on your spirit will glow like neon in the dark. You'll see exactly who's been reaching into your sacred space, and more importantly, you'll finally have the spiritual authority to say, "No more." Proverbs 27:6 declares, "Faithful are the wounds of a friend, but the kisses of an enemy are deceitful." Some of you have been kissed to death by people who call themselves friends. Some of you have been loved into depression by family members who drain your light every time they visit. The invisible hands aren't always aggressive. Sometimes they're gentle. "Oh honey, at your age, maybe you should take it easy. Don't you think you've done enough in your lifetime? Why don't you just enjoy your retirement instead of starting new projects?" These whispers have been stealing your tomorrow while you sleep. They've been convincing you that diminishment is natural, that shrinking is spiritual, that fading away is faithful. But God never called you to fade. Isaiah 46:4 promises, "Even to your old age and gray hairs, I am He who will sustain you." Sustain you, not drain you, not diminish you, not convince you that your season is over. Can you feel them now? Those invisible hands that have been shaping your thoughts, limiting your dreams, convincing you that boldness is inappropriate at your age. They've been so careful, so strategic, that you thought their voice was your own wisdom. The hands that convinced you to stop singing because people might think you're trying too hard. The hands that made you apologize for taking up space in conversations. The hands that taught you to make yourself smaller so others could feel bigger. Tuesday is the day heaven exposes every single one of them. If you're sitting there right now and something in your chest is burning with recognition, if you can suddenly see the fingerprints that have been all over your peace, your joy, your very sense of self, then type, "I see the fingerprints" in the comments right now. Don't think about it, don't analyze it, just declare it. Because once you see them, beloved, you can never unsee them. And once you can't unsee them, Tuesday becomes the day you finally learn to say the most powerful word in the English language. But first, you need to understand exactly what these invisible hands have been stealing from you, and why Tuesday is the only day you can get it back. But wait, chosen one. Before we point fingers at everyone else who's been draining your energy, stealing your peace, and laying their hands on what belongs to you, we need to face a truth that's going to cut deeper than any betrayal you've ever experienced. Sometimes, the one who lays a finger on you is you. I can see you sitting there, maybe shifting uncomfortably in your chair, because you know exactly what I'm talking about. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been your own worst enemy, and the damage you've done to yourself makes every external attack look like child's play. Listen to me carefully. Every time you said yes when your spirit screamed no, a piece of your soul slipped out the door. Every time you chose comfort over calling, safety over surrender, you handed your power to the very forces that were designed to destroy you. How many decades have you spent apologizing for dreams God gave you? How many years have you silenced the voice inside that was trying to save you? How many times have you looked in the mirror and spoken death over the very life heaven spent eternity planning? The Bible says in Proverbs 18:21, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue." Your tongue, beloved, not someone else's, yours. And for decades, you've been speaking your own funeral while God was trying to throw you a resurrection party. Think about it. When was the last time you chose yourself first? When was the last time you honored your own needs without feeling guilty? When did you last say no to manipulation without explaining yourself to death? I'll tell you when. You can't remember because you've been trained to betray yourself so completely that it feels normal. You want to know why Tuesday is so dangerous? Because you've spent a lifetime making yourself vulnerable. You've conditioned yourself to be accessible to everyone's agenda except your own. You've become a spiritual ATM, dispensing energy, wisdom, and love to people who wouldn't cross the street to help you if you were bleeding. But here's the shocking truth that's going to revolutionize everything. God is more concerned about you protecting yourself from yourself than from anyone else. Because external enemies are obvious. They attack from the outside. But self-sabotage, that's the cancer that eats you from within, wearing your own face, speaking in your own voice. Look at Peter. Jesus himself warned him, "Satan has asked to sift all of you as wheat. But I have prayed for you, Simon, that your faith may not fail." Luke 22:31-32. Even with that warning, Peter still denied Christ 3 times. Not because the enemy was stronger, but because he wasn't prepared for the war within himself. How many times have you denied your own calling? How many times have you looked opportunity in the face and said, "I don't know this person"? How many times have you betrayed your own destiny because the pressure felt too intense? Every time you chose procrastination over purpose, you laid a finger on your own throat. Every time you fed your fears instead of your faith, you strangled your own breakthrough. Every time you listened to doubt instead of divinity, you became your own Judas, selling your destiny for 30 pieces of temporary comfort. And the cruelest part? You did it all while calling it humility. "I'm not worthy," you said. "Who am I to dream so big?" you whispered. "Maybe next year, You promised. But humility isn't self-hatred wearing a Sunday dress. True humility is recognizing that if God gave you a vision, He also gave you the capacity to fulfill it. But Tuesday changes everything. Tuesday is the day heaven says, enough. Not just to the people who've been draining you, but to the voice inside that's been convincing you you're not enough, you're too old, you've missed your chance. Here's what's going to happen on Tuesday if you're not prepared. That little voice of self-doubt is going to get louder. It's going to whisper, see? Even God's people are telling you to protect yourself from others, but what about protecting others from you? What about all the ways you've failed? What about all the mistakes you've made? Don't you dare listen to that voice. That's not conviction speaking, that's condemnation. And Romans 8:1 declares with thunderous authority, therefore, there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ Jesus. The difference between conviction and condemnation is this. Conviction says, you did something wrong, but you can be restored. Condemnation says, you are something wrong, and you can never change. One comes from heaven, the other comes from hell. Tuesday is your day to finally draw the line. Not just with toxic people, but with toxic thoughts. Not just with energy vampires, but with the vampire voice in your own head that's been sucking the life out of your dreams for decades. Every time you catch yourself speaking defeat, stop. Every time you feel the urge to shrink back from your calling, stand taller. Every time the old patterns try to resurface, remember that you are not who you used to be. You are who God says you are. The enemy's greatest weapon against you isn't other people. It's your own agreement with his lies. But Tuesday is the day you revoke that agreement. Tuesday is the day you stop being your own worst enemy and start being your own best advocate. Right now, I need you to do something that might feel uncomfortable. I need you to whisper out loud, right where you are, no more. My soul belongs to me. Don't just think it, say it. Let your own ears hear your voice claiming ownership of your own destiny. Because here's what happens when you finally stop laying fingers on yourself. You become untouchable to everyone else. When you refuse to betray yourself, others lose the power to manipulate you. When you stop sabotaging your own dreams, the world can't crush them either. But the question that will determine everything about Tuesday is this. Are you finally ready to stop being the enemy inside your own gates? Something extraordinary is happening in the invisible realm right now, and most people are completely blind to it. While you've been going about your daily routine, checking your mail, watching the news, worrying about tomorrow, heaven has been orchestrating something so massive that even the angels are holding their breath. The equinox portal is still open, beloved. Imagine a river of light flowing across the earth, carrying divine opportunities, breakthrough moments, and destiny-altering encounters. But here's what will shock you. Only those alert enough will ride its current. The rest will stand on the shore, watching their miracle pass by, wondering why nothing ever changes in their lives. Have you been seeing the signs? Those repeating numbers that seem to follow you everywhere. Waking up at exactly 11:11, noticing 222 on receipts, feeling your heart skip when 777 appears on your screen. That's not coincidence, chosen one. That's heaven's Morse code, tapping on your consciousness, saying, pay attention, the window is open, but it won't stay that way forever. Let me tell you something that's going to cut deep. Every spiritual breakthrough in your life came during a cosmic window just like this one. Remember that moment when everything shifted? When the job appeared out of nowhere? When the relationship healed overnight? When the money showed up just in time? You thought it was luck, but it was alignment. You stepped into a river of light without even knowing it. But here's what breaks my heart. How many windows have you missed? How many times has God opened a door and you walked past it because you were distracted by someone else's drama? How many divine appointments did you sleep through because you were too busy nursing wounds that someone else inflicted? Ecclesiastes 3:1 declares, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. Not every season, not when you feel ready. A season. A specific window. A precise moment when heaven and earth align to catapult you into your next chapter. And Tuesday, dear one, Tuesday is that moment. You see, the enemy knows about cosmic windows too. He's been studying your patterns for decades. He knows exactly when you're most vulnerable, when you're most likely to hand over your power to the wrong person at the wrong time. That's why he's been positioning people around you, energy vampires, dream killers, spiritual saboteurs, all waiting for the exact moment when you're supposed to break through. Think about it. Why do you think conflicts always arise right before your blessing? Why do family members suddenly turn toxic when you're about to step into something greater? Why do friends become critical right when you need support the most? It's not random. It's strategic warfare designed to make you miss your window. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. 1 Peter 5-8. He's not looking for the weak, beloved. He's hunting the ones who are about to step into their divine inheritance. He's targeting you because he sees what's coming through that cosmic window. But here's the prophecy that's going to shake you to your core. The wrong touch on Tuesday can echo for years. One moment of letting someone drain your energy, manipulate your emotions, or plant seeds of doubt can slam that window shut for another season. Another year of waiting. Another cycle of wondering why others break through while you remain stuck. I've seen it happen too many times. The grandmother who let her bitter daughter's words poison her joy on the very day God wanted to heal her arthritis. The widower who allowed his greedy relatives to stress him out when heaven was preparing to restore his finances. The retired teacher who gave her power away to gossip and complaint right when God was about to open a ministry door she'd prayed about for 20 years. But here's the flip side that will give you goosebumps. The right stand can shift your destiny instantly. When you refuse to let anyone lay a finger on your peace, your purpose, or your divine assignment, something clicks in the spiritual realm. The universe recognizes your strength. Heaven takes notice of your boundaries. And suddenly, opportunities start flowing like water through a broken dam. Remember Nehemiah? When the enemy tried to distract him from rebuilding Jerusalem's walls, what did he say? I am carrying on a great project and cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you? Nehemiah 6-3. He protected his divine assignment from interference. And the wall was completed in 52 days, a miracle that should have taken years. That same protective spirit needs to rise in you this Tuesday. Because the cosmic window is narrowing. Every hour you waste entertaining negativity. Every minute you spend arguing with fools. Every second you allow someone to touch your spirit with their chaos is shrinking your portal of possibility. Daniel understood this principle. While others partied and compromised, he protected his connection to heaven through prayer 3 times a day. Even when they threatened to throw him to the lions, he refused to let anyone touch his spiritual discipline. And what happened? The king himself declared, "Your God is the living God and he endures forever." Daniel 6:26. If you let distractions touch you this Tuesday, the window narrows, the cycle repeats, and years are lost. But if you guard what's sacred, if you protect what's precious, if you refuse to let anyone lay a finger on what God has been building in secret, you'll look back on this Tuesday as the day everything changed. The river of light is flowing right past your door, chosen one. The question that will determine your destiny is this: will you step into the current, or will you let someone else's hands pull you back to shore? But here's where it gets dangerous, chosen one. The enemy doesn't always come with obvious weapons. He doesn't need to. Because Tuesday's greatest battle won't be fought in the streets, it'll be fought in the silence of your own mind. Right now, as these words reach your ears, whispers are already beginning. Can you hear them? That subtle voice suggesting you're overreacting, that gentle nudge toward the easier path, that familiar echo of doubt whispering, maybe you're not as special as you think. Listen to me carefully, beloved. These are not random thoughts. They are strategic attacks designed to weaken your resolve before Tuesday even arrives. 1 Thessalonians 5:3 warns us, when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction comes upon them. The enemy's greatest weapon isn't the storm, it's the calm before it that makes you lower your guard. Do you remember the last time you compromised? I'm talking about that moment when you knew UKNEW in your spirit what the right choice was, but you chose comfort instead. Maybe it was staying silent when you should have spoken truth. Maybe it was accepting less than God's best because it felt safer. Maybe it was allowing someone to drain your energy because confronting them felt too hard. How did that feel afterward? That hollow ache in your chest, that restlessness that follows you for days. That's not guilt, dear one. That's your spirit mourning the death of your authentic self. Tuesday is coming with the same whispers, but amplified. They'll sound reasonable. They'll feel familiar. The voice will say, just this once, just to keep the peace, just because you're tired of fighting. But here's the shocking truth that's going to pierce through every excuse. Every time you compromise your truth, you hand a piece of your soul to the enemy. And he collects those pieces like trophies, weakening your spiritual armor until you can barely recognize your own voice. Jesus faced this exact test in the wilderness. Matthew 4:3 tells us the tempter came and said, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become bread." Notice the strategy, not an obvious evil, but a subtle compromise. You're hungry. You have the power. What's the harm? But Jesus understood what the enemy was really asking. Will you use divine power for personal comfort? Will you choose convenience over covenant? Right now, someone listening to this message is feeling the weight of that question in their own life. You've been offered the easy path, the relationship that feels good but dishonors God, the business opportunity that pays well but costs your integrity, the silence that keeps peace but kills your purpose. The whisper is getting louder, isn't it? Take it. You deserve it. You've suffered enough. But deep in your spirit, deeper than fear, deeper than exhaustion, deeper than the pain of waiting, there's another voice. It's quieter, but it carries the authority of eternity. It's saying, not yet, not this way. Hold on a little longer. That voice is why you're still here. That voice is why you didn't give up 10 years ago when everything fell apart. That voice is why you keep praying even when heaven feels silent. That voice is the very breath of God speaking life into your weary bones. Tuesday will test which voice you obey. But here's what breaks my heart, and here's what should terrify you. Most people fail this test not because they're weak, but because they're unprepared. They don't recognize the whispers as warfare. They think self-doubt is wisdom. They mistake compromise for maturity. Ephesians 6:12 declares, "We wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world." The battle isn't against your difficult neighbor or your demanding boss. The battle is against the spiritual forces that use them to reach your soul. Every person who tries to lay a finger on your peace Tuesday is just a vessel. The real enemy is the one whispering in their ear, "Push harder. Demand more." They'll give in eventually. And here's the terrifying part. If you've been compromising for years, if you've been choosing comfort over courage, if you've been silencing your God-given voice to keep others happy, Tuesday becomes the day when all those compromises come to collect their debt. The person who's been slowly draining your energy will demand more. The relationship you've kept on life support will demand your final breath. The fear you've been feeding will demand you bow down and worship it completely. This is why the warning is so urgent. This is why heaven sent this message to find you today. Not to scare you, but to prepare you. Not to condemn you, but to commission you. Because here's the mystery that changes everything. These are not accidents. They are spiritual checkpoints, asking the question that will determine your destiny. Will you choose truth or convenience, courage or comfort, the narrow road that leads to life, or the broad road that leads to destruction? Matthew 7:13-14 makes it clear. Wide is the gate, and broad is the way that leads to destruction, and there are many who go in by it. Because narrow is the gate and difficult is the way which leads to life, and there are few who find it. Tuesday is your gate moment, chosen one. And the enemy is counting on you choosing the wide path, the path of least resistance, the path of compromise, the path where everyone else is walking. But if you're ready, if something in your spirit is rising up right now saying no more, if you're ready to choose truth over convenience, courage over comfort, purpose over popularity, then declare it. Declare it in the comments right now. I choose truth. I choose courage. Don't just think it, speak it. Let heaven hear your voice. Let hell hear your declaration. Because what you declare today determines what you'll possess tomorrow. But choosing truth is only the beginning, because Tuesday is also the day when your greatest enemy reveals itself, and it's not who you think it is. But wait. Stop right there. I know what some of you are thinking right now. I'm 75 years old. I'm 82. I'm 91. My best days are behind me. What could I possibly protect that matters anymore? Dear chosen one, that thought, that lie, is exactly why the enemy has been circling you like a vulture. Because he knows something about your age that the world has forgotten, something that would terrify him if you ever remembered it. Your silver hair is not decline, it's a crown forged in decades of fire. Every wrinkle on your face is a battle scar from spiritual wars you survived. Every slow step you take carries the weight of wisdom that could crush mountains. The world sees weakness where heaven sees weaponry. Let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many storms have you weathered that would have destroyed someone half your age? How many times have you buried people you loved and still found the strength to wake up the next morning? How many financial collapses, health scares, family betrayals have you survived while others crumbled at the first sign of trouble? You think that's accident? You think that's luck? No, beloved, that's qualification. Moses was 80 years old when God called him to split the Red Sea. 80. When the world would have put him in a nursing home, heaven put a staff in his hand and said, "Now you're ready." Sarah was 90 when she birthed nations, not just a child, but the bloodline that would carry God's promise through eternity. Caleb was 85 when he stood before Joshua and declared, "Give me this mountain, not give me a rocking chair. Give me the giants, give me the impossible." And Anna, precious Anna the prophetess, was 84 years old when she recognized the Messiah in the temple. While younger eyes missed him, her aged spirit knew exactly who he was. Luke 2:38 tells us, she spoke about the child to all who were looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. 84 years of waiting. And she became the first evangelist of the Christ child. Do you understand what this means for Tuesday? Do you grasp why the enemy is so desperate to touch your spirit on this day? Because you carry something no 20-year-old, no 40-year-old, no 60-year-old can possess. You carry the authority of endurance. You carry the anointing of survival. You carry the testimony that says, "I've seen God move when everything looked impossible, and I'm still here to tell about it." The young ones have energy, but you have experience. They have passion, but you have proven faith. They have dreams, but you have witnessed miracles. And on this Tuesday, this spiritually charged Tuesday, that combination becomes unstoppable. But here's what breaks my heart. While you've been apologizing for your age, the enemy has been studying it. He knows that when a senior saint finally realizes their power, when they stop seeing themselves as a burden and start recognizing themselves as a weapon, all hell breaks loose. Literally. That's why he's positioning people around you to make you feel invisible, to convince you that your opinions don't matter, to suggest that your time has passed, to drain your confidence so slowly you don't even notice it happening. Tuesday is not a day to hide behind age, beloved. Tuesday is your proof that you survived what others could not. It's your declaration that you've been refined by fire and came out as gold. It's your moment to look the enemy in the eye and say, "I've been through your worst, and I'm still standing." You want to know why this Tuesday feels different? Because heaven is about to activate what 80 years of testing has built inside you. The patience you learned through decades of waiting, the wisdom you gained through countless mistakes, the unshakable faith you developed through seasons when God seemed silent. All of it was preparation for this moment, when someone tries to lay a finger on your peace, your purpose, your divine inheritance, and you have the spiritual authority to say, "Not today, not ever again." But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you finally embrace the power of your years, or will you let another Tuesday pass believing you're too old to matter? Because what I'm about to reveal next will show you exactly who's been assigned to test you this Tuesday and why your age makes you their greatest threat. You did it, didn't you? You guarded your spirit on Tuesday. You held your ground. You refused to let anyone lay a finger on what belonged to God. And for a moment, just a beautiful, shining moment, you felt victorious. You felt the breakthrough. You felt heaven smiling down on your faithfulness. But then, something happened that nobody warned you about. Something that's left you sitting there at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, wondering if you did something wrong. The silence came. Not the peaceful kind of silence that fills a sanctuary. Not the gentle quiet of answered prayer. I'm talking about the deafening, suffocating silence that makes you question everything. The kind of silence that follows you around like a shadow, whispering lies about abandonment, about being forgotten, about God moving on without you. Listen to me, chosen one. The Battle of Tuesday was not the end, it was the beginning of silence. And if you don't understand what this silence means, it will drive you back into the very bondage you just escaped. Here's what they don't teach you in Sunday school. Every breakthrough births a silence. Every victory summons a test. Every moment when you finally stand up for yourself, when you finally say no more, when you finally protect what's sacred, heaven responds with what feels like nothing. You've felt it, haven't you? That crushing weight of unanswered prayers that started Wednesday morning. You protected yourself on Tuesday, but now you're wondering, did God see it? Did it matter? Are you being punished for standing firm? Dear one, you're living in the aftermath of Elijah. Remember him? 1 Kings, chapter 19. This man had just called down fire from heaven. He'd defeated 450 prophets of Baal in the most spectacular spiritual victory in human history. The power of God had fallen like lightning, consuming the sacrifice, the stones, even the water around the altar. Victory, triumph, breakthrough, and then silence. Not just heaven's silence, but soul-crushing isolation. Elijah found himself alone under a broom tree, begging God to let him die. "I have had enough, Lord," he cried. "Take my life." From the mountaintop of miracle to the valley of despair in less than 24 hours. Does that sound familiar? Did Tuesday's victory somehow make Wednesday feel like a spiritual wasteland? Here's the truth that will save your sanity. God's silence isn't abandonment, it's alignment. Think about it. When a master craftsman works on his finest piece, when does he step back and go quiet? When the delicate work begins. When precision matters more than power. When one wrong move could shatter everything he's been building. That's where you are right now. In the silence between the storm and the still small voice. In the holy pause between what you've protected and what God is about to reveal. In the sacred space where your spirit learns to hear whispers instead of needing thunder. But let me ask you something that's going to cut deep. How many times have you mistaken God's silence for his absence? How many seasons have you spent believing that no answer meant no love? How many nights have you cried yourself to sleep, convinced that your prayers were bouncing off a brass heaven? The enemy knows your pattern. He knows that silence terrifies you more than storms. He knows that you can handle the obvious attacks, the arguments, the betrayals, the dramatic spiritual warfare. But can you handle the quiet? Can you trust God when he's not performing miracles on your timeline? Can you remain faithful when heaven seems to have gone deaf? This is the real test, beloved. Tuesday was about protecting yourself from others. But this silence, this is about protecting yourself from your own doubts. Because right now, in this very moment, something magnificent is happening in the unseen realm. While you're questioning whether God heard your prayers, He's rearranging circumstances you can't even imagine. While you're wondering if you matter, He's positioning people, opportunities, and breakthroughs that will leave you speechless. But here's the catch, and this is crucial. The silence will only last as long as it takes for you to learn its lesson. Some people learn it in days, others take decades. The difference isn't how spiritual they are, it's how quickly they stop trying to fill God's silence with their own noise. You want to know why this silence feels so heavy? Because you're carrying more than just your own story now. You're carrying the intercession of every grandmother who prayed in secret. You're carrying the hopes of every grandfather who worked 2 jobs and never complained. You're carrying the faith of every ancestor who trusted God even when trust made no sense. The silence isn't empty, chosen one. It's pregnant. Pregnant with purpose. Pregnant with destiny. Pregnant with answers so big that God needs to prepare your heart to receive them without being crushed by their weight. Like Elijah after the fire fell from heaven, silence becomes your furnace, not to punish you, but to purify you, not to break you, but to prepare you for a revelation so profound that you'll understand why every moment of waiting was necessary. So I need you to do something right now. In the comments below, I need you to type these words. I will not mistake silence for absence. Don't just think it, don't just feel it, declare it. Let heaven hear your covenant. Let the enemy hear your resolve. Let your own spirit hear the sound of faith refusing to bow to doubt. Because what's coming next, what this silence is preparing you for, will prove that God's delays are not His denials. And when the still small voice finally speaks, you'll understand why the thunder had to stop first. But are you prepared for what that voice is about to reveal? But here's what they don't tell you about spiritual warfare, chosen one. The enemy doesn't always come roaring like a lion. Sometimes he comes whispering like a lover in the dark. When you guard your garden, shadows will try to creep in through whispers. And these whispers, they know your name. They know your wounds. They know exactly where you're most vulnerable, and they strike with surgical precision when you least expect it. Listen to what happened to Eve in the Garden of Eden. Genesis 3:1 tells us the serpent was more cunning than any beast of the field. Notice it doesn't say he was louder. It doesn't say he was more powerful. It says he was more cunning. He whispered. He suggested. He planted tiny seeds of doubt that grew into mountains of destruction. Has God indeed said? 4 simple words that toppled paradise. Not a shout, not a threat, a whisper. That same voice is positioning itself around you right now, especially as Tuesday approaches. It's not coming through your enemies, those you can see coming. It's coming through the voice in your own head, the one that sounds like you, talks like you, but carries poison disguised as wisdom. You're too old for this spiritual awakening stuff. That's the whisper of failure, beloved. It slithers in during your quiet moments, when you're alone with your thoughts, when the house is silent and your faith feels fragile. It reminds you of every dream that died, every prayer that went unanswered, every time you thought God had forgotten your address. But wait, there's more. Remember when you messed up 30 years ago? Remember that mistake you made, that sin you committed? How can God use someone like you? That's the whisper of guilt, replaying memories like a broken record, forcing you to relive your failures in high definition. It doesn't matter that you've repented. It doesn't matter that the blood of Jesus washed you clean. The whisper wants you to believe that your past disqualifies your future. And then comes the cruelest whisper of all. Look at them. Look at how blessed they are. Look at their health, their family, their success. Why does everyone else get miracles while you get trials? That's the whisper of comparison, turning your eyes away from God's goodness in your life and fixing them on what others have that you don't. These whispers are like thieves at midnight. They never knock, they slip in. They don't announce their presence with sirens and alarms. They creep through the cracks of your consciousness when your defenses are down, when you're tired, when you're hurting, when you're most desperate for hope. But here's what Satan doesn't want you to know about Tuesday. Every whisper is actually confirmation. Confirmation that you're carrying something he desperately wants to steal. Why would he waste his time whispering to someone who poses no threat? Why would he bother attacking someone who isn't dangerous to his kingdom? The intensity of the whispers reveals the magnitude of what you're about to receive. But chosen one, I need you to understand something that will change everything. These whispers aren't just random spiritual attacks. They're coordinated. They're strategic. They're timed perfectly for Tuesday because the enemy knows something about this day that most people don't. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Tuesday isn't just another day on your calendar, it's an appointed time, a kairos moment when heaven's timing intersects with your earthly circumstances. And the enemy? He's been marking this day on his calendar too. Think about this. When does doubt hit you hardest? When does guilt feel most crushing? When does comparison steal your joy most effectively? It's always right before breakthrough, always right before God moves, always right before your situation shifts. The whispers intensify because your deliverance is imminent. But here's where most people make the fatal mistake. They dialogue with the whispers, they entertain them, they try to reason with them. They think they can negotiate their way out of spiritual attack through logic and willpower. Listen to me carefully. You cannot debate with demons. You cannot logic your way out of spiritual warfare. The moment you start explaining yourself to voices that have no right to speak in your life, you've already lost the battle. Jesus showed us the way in Matthew 4. When Satan whispered temptations in the wilderness, Jesus didn't debate, he didn't explain, he didn't justify. He spoke one word. Written. It is written. That's it. Case closed. Conversation over. You need to develop the same spiritual discipline. When the whisper of failure says you're too old, you say, "It is written, even to your old age I am he, and even to grey hairs I will carry you." When guilt tries to replay your past, you declare, "It is written, as far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us." When comparison tries to steal your joy, you proclaim, "It is written, I will praise you, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made." Not today, not Tuesday, not ever. Let that rhythm sink into your spirit, beloved. Let it become your heartbeat. Let it become your battle cry against every whisper that tries to diminish who God says you are. Because here's the shocking realization that will stop the enemy in his tracks. He doesn't always roar, he whispers. But you were born to roar back. You were created to speak with authority that silences hell itself. Your voice carries the power of heaven, and when you use it correctly, whispers flee like smoke before the wind. Tuesday is your testing ground. Will you listen to whispers, or will you speak with thunder? But knowing about the whispers is only half the battle, because there's something else lurking in the shadows of Tuesday that's even more dangerous. Listen to me carefully. Chosen one, what I'm about to tell you might cut deeper than any knife, but it will also set you free from chains you didn't even know you were wearing. The people who try to lay a finger on your spirit this Tuesday, they're not random, they're not accidents, they're mirrors, living, breathing reflections of the wounds you've been carrying in secret for decades. That manipulator who twisted your words until you questioned your own memory, they reflect the self-doubt that's been whispering in your ear since you were 8 years old, sitting at that kitchen table while your father told you that you'd never amount to anything. That betrayer who smiled to your face while stabbing you in the back. They mirror the fear of abandonment that took root the day your mother walked out that door and never came back. The narcissist who drained you dry while making you feel grateful for the crumbs. They're showing you the part of yourself that still believes you don't deserve real love, real respect, real partnership. Because somewhere, buried beneath 70 years of trying to be strong, you still carry that broken child who learned that love comes with conditions, that worth must be earned, that safety is always temporary. Here's the truth that's going to shatter your world. Jesus said in Matthew 7:3, "Why do you look at the speck of sawdust in your brother's eye and pay no attention to the plank in your own eye?" But this isn't about judgment, beloved. This is about recognition. The plank in your eye isn't sin, it's the wound that makes you attract the very people who will reopen it. Think about it. Why does the same type of person keep showing up in your life, wearing different faces but carrying the same energy? The critical boss who sounds just like your mother, the friend who abandons you exactly like your first husband did, the church leader who betrays your trust the same way that pastor did 40 years ago. You've been asking God, why me? Why do I keep attracting these people? But the real question is, what am I still carrying that calls them to me like moths to a flame? Your garden, that sacred space of your heart, wasn't attacked from the outside first. It was weakened from the inside. Every unhealed wound became a crack in the wall. Every unresolved trauma became a gate left unlocked. Every lie you believed about yourself became an invitation for others to treat you exactly the way you secretly believe you deserve to be treated. Do you remember that first betrayal? Not the recent one, the original one. Maybe you were 7 years old, trusting completely, and someone you loved shattered that trust into a million pieces. Maybe you were 17, giving your heart away, only to watch them trample it. Maybe you were 27, believing in promises that turned to ash. What did you tell yourself in that moment? I'm not enough. I can't trust anyone. Love always hurts. I'm stupid for believing. Those lies didn't just wound you, they programmed you. They became the frequency you broadcast to the world, and the world responded by sending you person after person who would prove those lies true. But here's what breaks my heart the most. You've been protecting the very wounds that are destroying you. You've been guarding the lies like treasures. You've been feeding the fears that feast on your faith. The critical voice in your head that sounds like your mother. You've been defending it, saying she was just trying to help. The abandonment pattern that keeps repeating. You've been excusing it, saying, maybe I'm just not lovable. The financial lack that follows you everywhere. You've been accepting it, saying money isn't spiritual anyway. Stop. Just stop. Proverbs 4:23 commands us, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. But you can't guard what you won't acknowledge. You can't protect what you won't examine. You can't heal what you won't feel. This Tuesday isn't just about keeping others from laying a finger on you. It's about you finally laying hands on the wounds that have been calling your enemies to your door. It's about you becoming the healer of your own broken places instead of the victim of your own unresolved pain. The woman at the well had 5 husbands and was living with a 6th man. Jesus didn't shame her. He saw her pattern. He saw the wound that kept her searching for love in all the wrong places. And when he offered her living water, he wasn't just offering eternal life, he was offering an end to the thirst that had been driving her from man to man, hoping someone would finally fill the emptiness inside. That same living water is being offered to you right now, but you have to be willing to look at the well you've been drinking from. You have to be willing to see the pattern. You have to be willing to admit that the garden of your heart has been compromised from the inside out. Here's the shocking truth. You've been your own worst enemy. Every person who hurt you was just playing a role you wrote in invisible ink with your unhealed pain. Every betrayal was just a rerun of the original script you never rewrote. But this Tuesday, this sacred Tuesday, you get to tear up that script. You get to reclaim your garden. You get to take back the keys to your own heart. Right now, wherever you are, I want you to whisper these words. I reclaim my garden. Say it again, louder this time. I reclaim my garden, because until you take back what was always yours, others will keep taking what was never theirs. The mirror is showing you the truth. The question is, are you brave enough to look? But here's where Tuesday becomes more than just protection. chosen one. Here's where the mystery deepens into something that will leave you breathless with wonder. When you successfully guard your spirit on Tuesday, when you refuse to let anyone lay a finger on what God has been building, you don't just protect yourself, you activate something cosmic. Something that has been waiting in the spiritual realm for decades, perhaps your entire lifetime. Tuesday isn't just a day of boundaries. It's a portal of alignment. Picture this. Like a river of light flowing from the throne room of heaven itself, this alignment carries you where human effort could never take you. Where your own strength would fail. Where your own planning would fall short. This divine current lifts you and moves you toward breakthrough that defies every natural law. But listen carefully, beloved. This portal doesn't open for everyone. It doesn't activate for those who compromise, who bend, who let the wrong voices touch their sacred space. No, this river of light only flows for those who understand the weight of their calling and guard it like their very life depends on it. Because it does. Do you remember Daniel in the lion's den? Daniel 6:10 tells us that even when the decree was signed, even when praying to God meant certain death, Daniel went home to his upstairs room, where the windows opened toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed. He protected his spiritual discipline. He guarded his sacred routine. And what happened? The lions' mouths were shut. The impossible became inevitable. That's what happens when you honor the portal. Now here's where it gets supernatural, and I need you to pay close attention, because what I'm about to share has been hidden from most believers for generations. The numbers have been speaking to you, haven't they? You've been seeing 777 on license plates, on receipts, on clocks when you wake up at night. You've caught 11 more times in the past month than in the previous year. The number 222 keeps appearing in the strangest places: your grocery total, your parking spot, the page number of the book that falls open in your hands. These aren't coincidences, chosen one. These are cosmic breadcrumbs. Heaven's way of saying, pay attention. The portal is approaching. 777, the number of divine perfection and spiritual completion. When you see this number, God is confirming that you're walking in perfect alignment with His will. It's His signature on your life, His seal of approval on your path. 11, the twin flames of awakening. This number appears when spiritual doors are opening, when the veil between heaven and earth grows thin. It's the universe's way of saying, make a wish, but make it count. Because what you decree in this moment has the power to manifest. 222, the number of divine partnership and balance. When 222 appears, God is saying, I'm working with you, not just for you, we're in this together. It's confirmation that your prayers and His plans are flowing in perfect harmony. But here's the warning that could save your destiny. If you let distractions touch you on Tuesday, if you allow the wrong people to drain your energy or manipulate your emotions, this portal closes, not just for the day, for the entire cycle. And the next time this level of cosmic alignment occurs, you might be looking at months, even years of waiting. Can you afford that? Can you afford to let someone's careless words, someone's toxic energy, someone's manipulation cost you the breakthrough that's been decades in the making? I'm talking to the 70-year-old grandmother who's been praying for her prodigal grandson for 20 years. This could be the Tuesday when his heart finally turns, but only if you don't let doubt, worry, or family drama touch your faith. I'm speaking to the 80-year-old widower who's been believing for financial provision since his wife passed. This could be the Tuesday when heaven opens that unexpected door. But only if you don't let fear, scarcity thinking, or well-meaning relatives talk you out of your miracle. I'm addressing the 90-year-old saint who's been interceding for revival in her community. This could be the Tuesday when the breakthrough you've been carrying in prayer finally manifests. But only if you don't let discouragement, physical limitations, or the voices of the natural mind touch your spiritual vision. Here's the climax that will change everything. The portal multiplies choices. One right no spoken on Tuesday can echo into decades of freedom. One boundary held firm can shift your entire family tree. One moment of refusing to let the wrong person touch your spirit can redirect the course of your remaining years. Think about it. Esther said one no to the fear of approaching the king uninvited, and it saved an entire nation. Moses said one no to staying comfortable in Midian, and 2 million people walked into freedom. Noah said one no to the mockery of his generation, and humanity itself was preserved. What no is Tuesday asking of you? What boundary is the portal demanding you hold? What interference must you refuse so that the alignment can flow? Because I promise you this, chosen one, the same God who parted the Red Sea, who made the sun stand still, who raised Jesus from the dead, is waiting on the other side of your obedience. The same power that created galaxies is ready to rearrange your circumstances. But it all hinges on Tuesday. It all depends on whether you can guard what He's given you to protect. The river of light is flowing, the portal is opening, the numbers are calling your name. But the question that will determine your destiny is this: will you let anyone lay a finger on what God is about to do, or will you step into the alignment that's been written in the stars since before time began? Listen to me, chosen one. For decades, maybe your entire life, you've been carrying a voice that the world told you didn't matter anymore. Society looked at your grey hair and decided your words were outdated. Your own family started finishing your sentences, as if your thoughts moved too slowly for their fast-paced world. Even the church, the very place that should honor your wisdom, began scheduling around you instead of with you. But here's what they never understood. Here's the sacred truth that Tuesday is about to reveal to every senior saint watching this message right now. The paralysis of silence gives birth to your voice. You think you've lost your voice because you can't shout over the noise anymore. You think your opinions don't carry weight because the world has moved digital while you stayed analog. You think your prayers bounce off heaven's ceiling because you've been whispering them in shame instead of declaring them in power. But what if I told you that every moment of forced silence has been building pressure in your spiritual vocal cords? What if every time they dismissed you, ignored you, talked over you, heaven was taking notes? What if this Tuesday, this specific day, is when God says, enough. It's time for my seasoned warriors to speak with the authority I've been developing in the dark. Look at Moses, 80 years old when God called him from that burning bush. 80. The world would have put him in assisted living, but God said, now you're ready. Why? Because Moses had spent 40 years learning to speak as a prince, 40 years learning to be silent as a shepherd, and now in his 80s, he was finally ready to speak as a prophet. Exodus 7:7 tells us, Moses was 80 years old, and Aaron 83 when they spoke to Pharaoh. The stammering was gone, the insecurity was burned away. At 80, Moses found a voice that parted seas and shook kingdoms. And what about Anna? Luke 2:36 describes her as 84 years old, widowed for most of her adult life, spending day and night in the temple. The religious leaders probably thought she was just a sweet old lady mumbling prayers in the corner. But when baby Jesus was brought to the temple, she was the first to proclaim his identity to all Jerusalem. At 84, her voice carried the weight of prophetic authority that changed history. Your throat is no longer trembling with uncertainty, beloved. It's being tuned to heaven's frequency. Right now, as I speak these words, something is shifting in the spiritual atmosphere around your life. Can you feel it? That tightness in your chest isn't anxiety, it's anticipation. Your voice box isn't aging, it's awakening. Every word you've swallowed in silence, every truth you've kept locked behind your teeth, every declaration you've been too afraid to make, they're all gathering like a spiritual storm in your throat. This Tuesday isn't just another day of being overlooked, talked down to, or dismissed as irrelevant. This Tuesday is the day your voice breaks through 60, 70, 80 years of conditioning that told you to sit down, shut up, and let the younger generation handle things. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Your voice carries something theirs doesn't. Authority. Not the kind that comes from degrees or positions, but the kind that comes from decades of watching God prove himself faithful. When you speak now, it's not just opinion, it's testimony. When you declare something, it's not just hope, it's historical evidence of God's goodness. The devil has been working overtime to silence senior saints because he knows what happens when someone who has walked with God for 70 years finally opens their mouth with confidence. Kingdoms shake. Principalities flee. Strongholds crumble. Your children think you're getting senile when you start talking about spiritual things. Your grandchildren roll their eyes when you mention God's provision. Your doctors want to medicate your religious delusions. But what they don't understand is that you're not losing your mind, you're finding your voice. Think about it. When David wrote Psalm 71-18, he cried out, "Even when I am old and grey, do not forsake me, my God, till I declare your power to the next generation." He understood something profound. The older you get, the more qualified you become to speak truth into a confused world. This Tuesday, that qualification becomes activation. This Tuesday, your throat chakra, your spiritual voice box aligns with heaven's broadcasting system. This Tuesday, you stop asking permission to speak and start speaking with permission from the Most High. But I need you to do something right now. If you feel this stirring in your throat, if something ancient is awakening in your vocal cords, if you sense that your season of silence is ending and your season of speaking is beginning, comment below. My voice returns today. Don't just think it, declare it. Because declaration is the first step of reclamation. And what you reclaim this Tuesday will echo through generations you'll never meet. But the awakening of your voice is only the beginning of what heaven has planned for this sacred day. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry these truths with you like precious stones in your heart. Remember this, Tuesday is not just another day, it's your divine appointment with destiny. The boundaries you set, the voice you reclaim, the sacred space you protect around your spirit, these aren't suggestions. They're spiritual survival tactics for a generation that carries more wisdom, more authority, and more anointing than any generation before them. Remember that the paralysis of silence has given birth to your voice. After decades of being dismissed, overlooked, and underestimated, heaven is saying, now. Now is when you speak with the authority I've been building in you through every trial, every tear, every moment you thought I had forgotten you. Remember that your age is not your limitation, it's your qualification. Moses at 80, Anna at 84. You at whatever blessed age you are right now, you're not too old to be used powerfully by God. You're finally ready. But more than anything, remember this. You are not walking this path alone. Even when the silence feels overwhelming, even when Tuesday brings tests you didn't expect, even when your own family doesn't understand the fire burning in your bones, the Creator of the universe is working behind the scenes on your behalf. He's been writing your story since before time began, and he's not finished yet. Right here, in this community of believers, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey because they're walking it too. We're not just viewers on a screen, we're a family, united by faith, connected by hope, and bound together by the unshakable love of Christ. Let me ask you this final question, and let it echo in your heart long after this video ends. If God has preserved you through every storm, protected you through every valley, and positioned you for this exact moment in history, what voice is He calling you to use? What truth is He asking you to speak? What boundary is He empowering you to set? Before you answer that question, join me in prayer. Wherever you are right now, in your living room, your bedroom, even in your car, I want you to close your eyes and let me speak over your life with the authority of someone who has seen God move mountains in impossible situations. A prayer of divine activation. Heavenly Father, Creator of time and eternity, the Ancient of Days who calls forth purpose from every season of life, I come before you now carrying every precious soul who has stayed with us through this message. Lord, they've felt the stirring, they've sensed the shift. They know in their spirits that Tuesday is not ordinary, it's sacred. So I ask you now, place your mighty hand upon their shoulders. Let them feel your presence like a warm embrace, reminding them that they are loved beyond measure, chosen beyond understanding, and called beyond their own ability. Father, silence every voice of doubt that whispers you're too old. Break every chain of intimidation that says your time has passed. Shatter every lie that suggests nobody listens anymore. Your word declares in Joel 2:28 that you will pour out your spirit on all people, and your old men will dream dreams. Your old women will prophesy. Make this real in their lives, Lord. Give them supernatural boldness this Tuesday. When family members interrupt, help them speak with gentle authority. When society dismisses them, remind them that you have commissioned them. When their own fears whisper, sit down, let your spirit whisper louder, rise up. Protect their energy, their peace, their sacred assignments. Put a hedge of protection around their spirits so that no weapon formed against them can prosper. Send your angels to guard their steps and prepare their path. Father, bless their families who don't understand. Open the eyes of their children and grandchildren to see the treasure sitting right in their midst. Let this generation witness what it looks like when your seasoned saints finally step into their full authority. And Lord, use their voices, every word they speak in faith, every boundary they set in love, every moment they choose courage over comfort to shake kingdoms, shift atmospheres, and speak life into a generation that desperately needs to hear from someone who has walked with you through decades of faithfulness. In the mighty name of Jesus, who sits at your right hand interceding for us all, I seal this prayer and release these precious ones into their destiny. Amen. Now, beloved, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, share what stirred in your spirit today. Tell us how God spoke to your heart. Ask us to pray for specific areas where you need breakthrough. This community is here for you. We see you, we believe in you, and we will stand with you in prayer. And please, if this message touched your soul, share it with someone who needs to hear it. There's someone in your life right now, a friend, a neighbor, maybe someone at church who's been feeling forgotten, dismissed, or too old to matter. They need to know their voice still carries weight in the kingdom of heaven. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. You're not just subscribing to content, you're joining a movement of chosen ones who refuse to be silenced, who understand their worth doesn't diminish with age, and who are ready to speak truth into a world that desperately needs their wisdom. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred chambers of your soul. Thank you for being brave enough to believe that your greatest days aren't behind you, they're right ahead of you. Until we meet again, remember, your voice matters. Your wisdom is needed. Your presence changes atmospheres. Walk in that truth, speak in that authority, and never let anyone ever again lay a finger on what God has declared sacred. Go in peace, go in power, and go in the unshakable knowledge that this Tuesday, everything changes. God bless you mightily, chosen one. Your time is now.